What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Welcome to a little Crystal Lake deep dive. I am Josh from Beyond the Grave Media, and we have Steven. Welcome.
What's going on, everyone? Happy to be here.
Yeah. So it looks like the audio's good. Everything's sweet. So, should we give him a little background on what we were thinking?
Yeah, so the purpose with this episode was to deep dive into the Friday the 13th franchise. Obviously, this is that time of year where I feel like these movies are like must watches, and we wanted to just have a chance to go over like what these movies meant to us, and yeah, be able to kind of like see if we agree on some of these movies, or um yeah, see, I guess, where we stand on each one of these films.
For sure. And it's that season, right? It's the camp season. So,
Oh
man, I
yeah.
get excited for all that.
Yeah, I think as soon as well, at least for me, when the weather starts warming up, that's when it's like prime camp slasher. Those summertime vibes that you get in some of those like the slasher movies that we all know and love. And yeah, what better way to kick off the summer than Friday the 13th?
So if we're not talking Friday the 13th, what are some other films that you kind of get excited for this time of year, Steven?
Oh man. Well, we did a deep dive into The Burning on the Beyond the Blood podcast, which that came out not that long ago, but that I would say is up there. The sleepaway camp movies are essential. Madman is another one that
Madman.
I know. That's one that I always end up revisiting. Um I would say outside of that though, I mean, you got to put in Texas Chainsaw at one point
It
throughout
definitely
the
feels
summer,
like that.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. That's like
I,
peak summer, like super hot July weather.
yeah, dude. There's so many. Madman, that one is criminally underseen.
Hmm.
Madman Marks. Oh man.
I know.
How much fun was the burning episode?
It was awesome because it forced me to look at that movie through a different lens. Not only, obviously, I've seen the movie countless times, but to look at it in this uh, retrospect of the movie, and understand the production, the timing when this movie came out, it was a lot of fun because the audio commentaries didn't have like a ton to go off of as far as like material for us to review. So it allowed us to be able to dive in a little bit deeper why these movies are movies that we come back to, especially with The Burning, and kind of played the what ifs, why it never got a sequel too.
Yeah, that Legend of Cropsy could just be its own movie. I mean, it's so good. Take it out of the camp, I'd still watch it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that what about for you? Are there certain summer movies that you find yourself come back to rewatch?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a little bit. Obviously, the number one summer blockbuster, Jaws. That's my
Yep.
favorite movie. So July's Jaws time.
Oh yeah.
But when it gets hot, yeah, Texas Chainsaw for sure. I like Poltergeist around this
Oh
time
yeah.
too.
Yep.
I don't know if it's like they play the Star Spangled Banner and it just feels warm.
For
I don't
sure.
know.
For sure. The pool scene.
The pool scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, not that's not the type of pool that I want to be swimming in, but
Real skeletons.
Return of the Living Dead around 4th of
Yeah, right.
July.
The day after the fourth. Yeah,
Yep.
I always do that.
Yeah,
I feel
that
like we're gonna forget a bunch.
yeah, there's I feel like that there's like less obvious answers. Like I feel like Cabin Fever is another one, or Wrong
That's a great
Turn.
one.
You know, those
Wrong
those
turn.
a little bit like falls in like the early 2000s picks.
There's a ton of those. Even the Hills Have Eyes remake feels super hot
Oh yeah.
just the whole time.
Yep, I would agree with that. There was a couple others. I was actually jotting these down. Let me see
You
what some of
mentioned
them.
sleepaway camps
I know what you did last summer.
for sure.
Yeah.
Final Girls has that vibe.
For sure.
Cheerleader camp.
Jordan said Uncle Sam. That's more patriotic, you know?
Cabin Fever's great though. That was a good one. I'm trying to think of what
I don't
else.
know, like Twister. I know that that's not really like horror, but that's a movie that I feel like I find myself watching, you know, peak summer.
Yeah.
Tornadoes just freak me out in general.
Dude, did you like the green on the new release?
It was, I mean, isn't it supposed to be more accurate to what actually happens? Like,
Apparently.
I don't, I haven't really, oh, thank God, I haven't dealt with like any tornadoes in some time, but that's what they were stating. That's, I guess, the reason why that they edited it to do like have it as such for the 4K transfer
with all the green. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it looked sick.
Yeah, it was a very nice transfer.
It just takes a little bit to get used to. The sound design on that movie, man. My house was rocking.
Oh, it's nuts. Yeah. That's definitely, that'll be a fun one to I haven't watched it since last summer, so it'll give me an excuse to pop it in and have a chance to revisit it. So Friday the 13th, obviously, I think for both of us that has had quite the place as far as our horror fandom, or the reason maybe why we got into horror. Where did that initially start for you? I know we were talking about a little bit off camera, but
yes, it's weird. I think about Friday the 13th and I think about like Tiny Toon Adventures and like weird cartoons back in the day would spoof them. But the first time I seen it, I mean, like Freddy was so huge, but Jason Voorhees was part 3. I want to say I was in like 4th grade, maybe. But there was a marathon. You know, I watched like 4, 5, 6, and 7, and just I was obsessed.
Oh man,
what about you?
So I rented them way back when I was going through like binge watching horror movies, or you know, it's like obviously your first taste of getting into them. So I remember watching the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, the Halloween movies, and Friday the 13th was, you know, obviously that franchise is so iconic. So I remember going and renting all of those, and you know, I felt like back then they were obviously like a lot scarier seeing them at a younger age, and then I remember it kind of branched off from that to, I believe it was the DVD releases that they had. They had the lenticular slip covers on them, and I remember seeing them at the movie store, picking them up and collecting all of them. And that's where I think it made me appreciate it to that next level, because I was buying like the multi packs of Nightmare on Elm Street and that right around the same time. And it just solidified my love for those movies like 100-fold.
Did you start in order?
I think I kind of bounced around. I remember watching the first couple, and then I remember, I think it was just around the time leading up to maybe, I think when Freddy versus Jason was coming out. So there was all the hype behind that. And I was trying to watch some of these as it was getting closer to the release date. And I think I kind of bounced around after the first couple, just, you know, whatever I could pick up, basically get my hands on. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I started with the third one, but you were talking about the DVD sets. I don't know if I'm a little bit older, but back in the day, going to mom and pop videos, you know, with the wood paneling and whatnot. I just remember the VHS covers being so, I just was obsessed with them. So I would just choose one for the night based on the cover.
The cover art, I feel like it's something that's so lost with like more recent releases. There's just something so iconic about those movies that were coming out. I felt like in the 80s and 90s, there was just actual love that was put into those releases. Now it's just, I mean, you know how it is. Like a lot of those releases, they're just kind of very like plug and play with the movie posters designs.
100%. What's your favorite, before we get way into this, what's your favorite cover? Or what's, you know, a couple that you like? Favorite's a hard word.
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, I would argue like part 4 is probably the most iconic. that's probably that's like the one that I always come back to as being probably the most memorable. What about you? Yep.
Yeah, part 4. I'm actually getting that tattooed next Friday. I'm pretty
Oh,
excited
that's
about
sick.
that. Me and my brother and one of our friends, we're all going to do it. But I think part 7, I mean, I love this one anyway, but I think that cover is just so stupid cool. And I love the first one. I think the first one is so simple, like, oh my god,
very effective,
so good, so good.
Can I put part 8 out there,
dude? Yeah,
I have to show some love to part 8. Maybe the cover art surpasses how good the movie actually is.
He's like crawling over the fucking city.
Come on, man. That's pretty hard.
What's up, Frank? Frank's in here. Hey, Jordan.
What's up, guys?
Hey, who else is in here? Joel. Good to see everybody. Frank says the first Jason movie I can remember is Goes to Manhattan, where Jason goes straight to hell. Remembers hell more. Yeah, the cover art for part 8 is stupid cool. I don't really like the alternate where it's just I love New York or whatever.
It's cool for what it is, but the one that you were showing off, that's like always the one that I always call back to, like when I think of you know, for that release, for sure.
Yeah, I dig it. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna just dive right into this
yeah,
it's a
I would say
bed.
I mean, look, taking it back, I mean, it's we're back in 1980 when the first one's coming out. So what did this movie do for you? Or what about this film stands out to you, like when we look at the franchise as a whole?
I think that Friday the 13th, the first one, is just like there's something pure and simple about it that's also like so clean with the way that they set up the shots. Anytime they're in the cabins, anytime there's weather involved, like I don't know. I think the intro is great with the music and the flashing backwards, Crazy Ralph. I just think it's a simple movie, and as I've gotten older, it's become like one of my favorite ones. Like, I don't need Jason for it to be a great Friday movie. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But Betsy Palmer, man, I'm telling you,
Unhinged,
so iconic. Unhinged.
I don't think I could imagine anyone other than her playing that role. And
No
I feel like the first one, you're like knee deep in atmosphere. Like, especially once it starts storming, probably towards like the later half of the movie, that's when I feel like things start closing in and it gets that much creepier because obviously, you know, something's up.
Yeah.
But it's a gradual, slow build up until the final reveal. And I think the fact that it ended up being that, you know, obviously Jason doesn't actually make the like a full appearance in that film, but I think the reveal of like kind of laying the groundwork with Mrs. Voorhees is just such an interesting way to kick off the franchise. And obviously it builds like the lore out, you know, for what Jason eventually will become. But I mean, I think there's nothing more iconic about that movie than the score.
Oh yeah, we didn't touch on this. Yeah, dude,
it's a vibe.
It's I get so excited thinking about it. Like I think about the snake scene, being a little kid, being like, "Oh shit, there's a snake in the cabin."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The way that it shows the kill at the end, like where it's shooting up on Betsy, pulling back, slow motion. It's just, I don't know, man. There's so many shots, like the bow and arrow shot, and the chick's like just standing there.
Yeah.
The reveal at the end though is still in my top 5 Friday moments ever.
Oh yeah,
maybe horror ever. That canoe scene, God, man.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's so awesome.
That I feel like is like it's almost out of a painting. Like when you go back and watch that, like in obviously like you know I've talked to you about collecting them on VHS, but like when you actually have a chance to see that in like high definition, either off of like a Blu-ray or 4K release. Like that scene's actually like fucking stunning.
It is.
I
She's
think
like
that
swirling the water.
yeah, man. And I feel like just over the course of that movie, there's like it truly feels like the camp setting is its own character. Um, you know, I think that some of that varies a little bit from film to film as a, you know, we have a chance to discuss the other sequels, but this is one that I think with the atmosphere, the camp environment, that always moves it up a notch for me, like as far as, you know, how effective this movie is. And the characters I think are you're like a little bit more invested in them. I mean, they're not like
Right.
anything like groundbreaking, but I mean, I don't know, like they're interesting to watch as the film goes on.
I like them all, like bad haircuts and all.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it just works.
Yeah.
It feels like 1980. It's just forever in time. It's so iconic. Yeah.
I wonder if when Sean Cunningham was directing this, in his wildest dreams, did they ever think it would take off the way that it did? Because just off of this film, it's not like even Jason in his full appearance shows up in this movie. Obviously that builds out with like the mythos over the sequels. But I mean, Jason ends up being kind of a cultural icon for that time, the same way that I feel like Freddy was.
Oh yeah. It's crazy to think how would he know, like,
it's I just like, I don't know, there's just something so special about this movie. And then Adrienne King, the first final girl out of the series. I mean,
badass.
What more can you say about her? It's kind of like it's not really, I don't know. She's not like anything like, I don't know how to explain it with her. She's not like, I wouldn't put her like in the top, but for this movie, she works.
Yeah. I mean, when I think of Friday the 13th, I think of her, Alice, the gal from Seven that just passed away, final chapter. Like, there's a few that I think of, but she takes on Betsy Palmer role, just Pamela, whatever. Yeah, Tom Savini. I mean,
yeah,
but it goes back to that cover. Like,
yep,
there's so much that could happen with that cover, and then I think people maybe they were just let down when they heard it was a Jason Voorhees movie. Like, we have the benefit of time, but back then they didn't know that it was going to be Jason. Like, they just got used to it in the 80s, you know. So I think that throws people off, unfortunately. We're like, oh shit, he's not even in this one, like barely.
I know,
the best jump scare ever.
I know, it's and even going off of Frank's comment, but these movies, they're like comfort movies, and that's something that is no different than the first film. These are movies I feel like out of any franchise I can come back to, especially with the first one. I was going to say last summer had an opportunity to see a double feature at the drive-in of the original and then part 2 back to back. Oh man, to be able to see that during midsummer, that was an experience. It was so much fun.
Yeah. What were you driving? I gotta.
What's that?
Like, what were you watching it in?
Oh, it was so we took my F-150 out there, so we just pulled up. Yeah, man, just like reversed
blankets.
Yep, laid out blankets, dude, pillows.
That's got all,
dude. It was like perfect weather. I don't know. It's like one of those moments that you just will cherish forever, and just to be able to see those in that format, that's something special. Like you can't recreate that, you know.
Yeah, my parents, they got together in 1980, so a couple of my favorite movies are from then because they watched it at the drive-in.
Yeah,
so it's always kind of cool to pick their brain on what they were watching in the drive-in. We had one where I used to live. It was the shit.
Now, did you, I was gonna say, so how early on when you were initially getting into these did you see the first one? Like, did you see it in order then, or?
I seen 3 And then I was so with 3 they have that little callback to 2, and I was
Yeah.
so confused because it was the first one I ever seen.
Yeah.
Like I was like, wait, why is they chopping the head off, put it on the mantle and shit? And so then I went back and watched 2, and then I think I went backwards again. I think, but then I went to 7, and then who knows? But
Man.
I think I went 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I really notice about this film specifically on rewatch is just how much the Tom Savini special effects really, or the practical effects really stand out.
Mhm.
You know, I just don't think this movie would work quite as well if you didn't have him on board. Um, you know, the scene with Kevin Bacon, I know it doesn't, you know, over time doesn't really hold up quite as much, but it still works for what it is. You know, like you were talking about the scene at the end with Betsy Palmer, um, you know, when Adrian King, like in the final fight, I mean, that works. Like a lot of the other kills that happen, the axe to the head.
Sure.
Yeah, man, all of it. It just for that time, it just it works on so many levels.
I mean, even just I'll rewind the car ride. I guess it's a truck where the hippie girl's getting the ride. She's hitchhiking out to Camp Blood.
Yep.
That whole monologue, like it gives me goosebumps, man. I get if I'm having a bad day, fucking Friday the 13th,
Oh
man.
yeah.
I don't need anything else. I'm just
No.
in such a good mood. It's not
Yeah.
gory, it's not too much blood. It's perfect characters, it's set up right, the music, Savini, ah, it's just it's home. I love it so much.
Yeah. I would agree. I think the first one will always have that. I'll always have that affinity for the first movie out of any of them, just because it laid the groundwork for everything that came after that. And then obviously we know that that leads straight into part 2.
Yeah, buddy.
So we just open right from the rip, and we're already introduced to, we're following up with Alice and kind of following up where she's at post the events of the first one. Now, first time around watching that movie, I mean, were you expecting that she was going to stick around?
No, I thought that was interesting how I mean, I guess because 3 had that kind of callback, or is that just a rehash, kind of whatever
Yeah,
that's called.
basically like a
Um,
recap.
it kind of does a little Halloween 2 in a way. No, I didn't think she was going to be in it. I was kind of confused, but
Yeah,
I
it's
liked it.
it's really creepy because it's like at this point it's extended, like the trauma essentially that she experienced at Camp Crystal Lake is extending past that point where it's like, you know, she's back home, or you know, living on her own, or
Mhm.
whatever the case is, and it's legit, like it's following her, you know,
Yeah.
it I mean, wherever she's at.
The definition of PTSD
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep. um yeah, that scene where she just, I'm trying to even think, like she gets murdered with an ice pick to her temple,
Brutal.
and that's how the movie opens.
Right.
So let's see, this took place, so this was a year later. It's directed by Steve Miner. Actually, I had a chance to meet him. Super down to earth guy.
Nice.
um I will say though, I've been to a lot of conventions. I don't know, do you go to any of the horror conventions throughout
I
the
don't
year?
get any around me. It
Oh, no
sucks.
way. Okay.
Yeah.
um
LA is the closest one.
how far is that from you then?
14 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that then it looks like you're flying there then.
Yep.
So I kind of jumping off of the original and then obviously part 2, but out of anybody that I've come across, and I will pound the table about this, Adrian King is one of the nicest people I've ever met at a convention. She
That's awesome.
is so nice and appreciative, and just like seems like such a genuine person, and just, I don't know, just thankful for everyone to be there at least at the one I was at.
That's
um
awesome.
but yeah, I mean, right from the rip, you know, she is she's taken out almost immediately. And then 5 years later, we're introduced to a whole new group of camp counselors.
Right.
So where are these guys at compared to, like, do you like this cast of characters compared to like the first one more?
So what's interesting about 2 is I think that part 2, when I think of it as a series like Friday the 13th,
Mhm.
part 2 is the first one to really have the campfire scene where people are
Yes.
chatting about the legend of Jason.
Yes.
Which is so important.
Oh,
because you get it, throughout the series later on, but the first one doesn't have that. So I love these counselors. They're hokey, but they're lovable,
Charming.
They
Yeah.
introduce the sex and the machetes, and you got the wheelchair, but that campfire scene, yeah, I don't know if it'll focus, but it sets it up.
That is something that I think is so crucial. And we were talking about this at the very beginning. It's so crucial in movies like The Burning, Mad Men. These are
Exactly.
films that I feel like that creates like a like the urban legend behind some of these characters. It makes them seem like way bigger than they I mean that they basically than they actually are.
Right.
And it nails that tone, that camp tone, I think is more important than anything.
So I think that's just become part of pop culture. I don't know if there's a lot of movies that had the kind of legends of these masked killers or slashers or, like lore in the woods. There just wasn't a lot of that I remember. But Friday the 13th, like, set that up as that's what you're supposed to do. You crack a beer, you scare your friends, and there's somebody there with you. You can't figure out who it is.
It's really, okay, so let me ask you this. Did you ever go to like summer camp growing up at all?
100%.
Okay. So we were talking about this, me and some of the guys, and when we were having this conversation, it was like I was one of the few that went to some sort of a summer camp. And now, mind you, I wasn't there for the entire summer, but it was at least like, I want to say it was like maybe like a week, maybe 2.
Okay.
And when you're out there, I mean, you're out there. It's not like you're I mean, you're going there, you're going to be there for some time and that's it. So like, I think for you or I to understand the isolation that comes with being away at camp,
Hours away.
Oh yeah. And you're with like a limited group of people, limited accessibility to like reaching out to anyone outside of where you're like staying for that time period. I mean, I think it enhances it yeah, man. It enhances it that much more. It's like that it's like that much creepier,
So I've been in school, they had like a week one where you would go with people that were taking like outdoor classes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was kind of a bad kid or rebellious, I guess. Imagine that. And so I was sent to a church camp and I got kicked out of church camp. That was the first time I heard about Pet Sematary. So I was like,
oh wow,
9 or 10. And they told the Zelda story. And the counselors were 5-6 years older than me. And they had a TV in their cabin and they were watching it. So I'd sneak out, go over to their cabin, church camp. So yeah, no, isolated church camp it's creepy, man.
Oh, it is. And it's like
separated boys on this side, girls on that side.
I just remember, you would have evening activities like, I mean, we actually would have campfires there. And I just remember there was something so creepy about it being pitch black. I mean, there just was like not a lot of light near us. So we're all huddled down there in this area by the water. And you've just got this campfire. It's like a group of us. But, as a kid, like your imagination runs wild, and I was already kind of like fringe exposed to like some horror movies at the time. But man, it's I think it definitely helps enhance the movie watching experience if you've been there before, right?
And if you're younger and there's people that are older, they have a status of authority over you even, or you look up to them, you're impressionable, and they start telling those tall tales, man, those urban legends. You want to fit in, and they scare you to death. So
Oh yeah.
Friday the 13th, they kept that going, which is awesome.
Yeah. I think the group of characters, like our core group of main characters of the camp counselors, they're like fun to follow.
Exactly.
Amy Steele, I would argue, like, for me, like on rewatch, she might be one of my favorite Final Girls.
She's awesome, dude.
And just, she took such a different angle to obviously taking on Jason. It wasn't by, obviously in the first one, that's more of like a physical fight. It was like psychological, so to try to, I mean, she kind of alludes at it a little bit earlier when I think where are they at the bar, and she's talking about like how he's just basically like a man with a child's mind, essentially, after he saw his mom get killed.
Building the lore.
She's understanding on more of a psychological level compared to like what like anyone else in that movie was even like remotely thinking about with that character.
Right. Oh, she's badass, man. She, just the fact that she pretends to be his mom, like she understands the assignment for that movie.
Yes,
she switches up. Yeah, I love it. You got a
now,
favorite kill from that one?
Who? Okay, I think it's just because it's so ridiculous. The wheelchair kill.
Yes,
it's it. And like shit's about to go down. Like the way that they like drag that out.
That poor bastard.
Yes. And this guy, like, he's over here making moves, yeah, and he gets out there, and it's like, dude, I don't know why you're out there right now. But just
the weather's changing.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you just got your shit rocked. And it's like bad enough that obviously, I'm sure that he's dead, but like, I mean, you're going down a whole fucking flight of stairs. Like, if you weren't dead by that point, there's no way you're getting out of that.
Dude, it's so great. Anytime they do like a highlight, like in part 7, that's what everybody remembers is the sound of that chair off the steps. Just
oh, it's gnarly. And here's one thing that I at least appreciate on so many levels with the first two are Crazy Ralph. He builds the mythology. Like he straight up tells us in the first one, like, there's some shit going on at that camp. Like, why you guys do not need to be going there.
Don't go.
And yet we get 2 movies of that people are continuing to go there. Don't listen to this guy,
So before we keep jumping around, there's something so special about Crazy Ralph and him giving you all the lore. Like, he's our only beacon of, people don't take him seriously, but if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't know what not to do. And I think that the idea of a prequel to Crystal Lake, like what happened before however many years ago, and having a young Crazy Ralph or something, I think that would be so interesting.
Probably saw too much stuff.
So much.
I mean, both movies, he's foreshadowing what's going to happen. I mean, he straight up tells you, you're going there, like, this camp's doomed. Probably not a good idea to go there, and yet obviously they continue to go there anyways. Right. It would be an interesting angle to see if they incorporate him into like we were talking about, the TV series in some capacity.
Yeah, it would be interesting. So yeah, Alice, obviously super awesome. I think about the ending and Potato Sack Jason. Where do you stand on that?
Well, is it my favorite design? I don't know if I would say that it's my favorite, but for this movie it works. It's like the evolution of Jason. And I thought that, without jumping too far ahead, with the 2009 remake, I think that they did a nice way of updating that design, even if it's only for like a short sequence. I like it. I think it ultimately leads us to have the payoff of him eventually having the hockey mask. And listen, I'm just gonna go ahead and say like 2 is up there for me as one of my favorites. So yeah, it doesn't
Absolutely.
have the iconic hockey mask for Jason, but it's one of my favorites. I can't knock it too much. What about
Right.
you?
I think when I think about it, I love when the bag comes off, obviously.
Hmm.
Almost kind of like the Goonies, kind
Yeah.
of vibe to it. But I think of the flannel and like the colors on the flannel and how weathered his hands are. If he's grabbing an axe, a machete, whatever he's butchering with, I just think of how he wears his clothes and who taught him. I just have weird thoughts about it. I
Yeah.
feel like he's itchy. He's itchy as shit with that bag on, and that I love flannel, but man, it's woolly.
Well, I mean, you're out there in the middle of summer. It's got to be like July,
Yeah, dude.
June, July, dude. He's got to be sweating.
That's what I'm thinking. And I'd be mad. I can't see out of this bag barely. It's creeping on my face.
He had some
It's
long
sticking to
hair
my
in that
weird hair.
one.
He did have long hair. It's
Oof.
all weird and
Yeah.
bizarre.
Well, that's the cool part. And again, with each one of these movies, like that design changes progressively. So he eventually goes from like having that I wouldn't say it's a gorgeous head of hair, but it's definitely he's got a head of hair, and it
Doing better
kind
than
of
me. Yeah, man.
yeah. Oh, come on now, but it definitely decomposes, and he's just has less and less of it as time goes on.
He's menacing with that flannel and the bag on.
Hmm.
Like he's got a little madman to him. Like he just seems huge compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of it.
What about okay? So we get further in the movie, right? And we get to the point where we discover that he has like this hidden lair, right, out in the middle of the woods,
Right.
basically like a shrine. I think that is just such a interesting element to the movie because it's bad enough, obviously, like, Mrs. Voorhees, at the end of the first one, um, we know what happened with her, but to have them be able to like just keep the head and build it as part of a shrine, pretty wild.
Yeah, he's got a little Norman Bates to him.
For sure.
I always thought that was super effective. That whole layer, like his worship area, like ritualistic. I always thought Jason Voorhees, just as a name, sounds menacing. Like,
Yeah.
Voorhees is a great name. Great.
Yeah, there's a lot to love about this movie, and it's probably out of the whole franchise, I would say this is one that I come back to pretty frequently. Part 4 is one that I come back to more often than not. And again, I think that you got to give it points for capturing the campfire aesthetic.
They started it. Huge fan. The beheading at the end. I really love going 1, 2, 3, 4. Like if I'm watching them in order.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll throw some wild cards in there, but more often than not, I just start from the beginning and see how far I get. Yeah, huge fan.
Now, yeah, this one I feel like is I think that one of the final scenes in it, I believe it's for this one, where he jumps through the window. Like you finally have that moment of like where the tension dies down, and he jumps through the window, and they did that callback, I believe, in the remake at the very end of it.
They do.
But it works. It's like we finally are able to breathe after this, just this massacre, and then that's where it ends. And I don't know, I think it's effective.
Super effective. Sets the next one.
For sure.
It's so startling with just crashes through. You're like, what in the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Great sound design in that spot. I love it.
Well, that brings us to part 3.
Let's do it.
So where do you rank this? I mean, this is the first appearance of Jason Voorhees as we know him.
The first hockey mask.
Yep.
Yeah. So, not even gonna joke. It's my favorite one. It's my favorite one.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the one I think that is the scariest. I think it's my favorite version of Jason as far as like aesthetically. I love the silliness of it. I think we can get way into it, but
yeah,
where does
sure.
it stand on your list?
I actually watched this one last night, and like for what it is, I think the only thing that sometimes just holds it back for me a little bit is that two things. So I feel like the 3D effects in any film, I feel like kind of dates things. You know that you obviously know the scenes where they're standing out, like they're meant to be like the 3D effects in the movie. So if you take that away and you're not watching it in 3D, I think it just looks a little off for those sequences. And then it doesn't feel like it's a traditional camp setting necessarily. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's mostly like some of the kill scenes take place in that barn, right?
It's mostly the barn.
Yeah. So I still would consider this like top tier Friday the 13th, but I don't think I would put it over part 2 or part 4 for me.
I think that the motorcycle gang, they leave a little bit to be desired. I think Shelley grates on people's nerves. Just if I'm thinking of the negatives for me.
Yeah. It's like
he's so charming.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. He's just so like naive. Yeah. He's just there to just clown around and fuck around. Yeah. You know, he's just a simple guy that's just trying to get it in by being funny.
That's it. That's all he's got. He's got weird masks and pranks and yeah. Do you have any of the Friday the 13th glasses still? Like the 3D glasses themselves?
I don't. I used to, like I was saying, I had those lenticular DVDs that I remember they included, I think, a pair or two with them. Oh, there you go. What did that come with?
This comes with the DVD set.
Okay.
So I have 4 copies of Friday the 13th Part 3.
Dude, that's commitment.
Just because I usually have a gang of people that want to watch it and they want to watch it in 3D. So it makes more sense. The quality on DVD is not the greatest.
But. No. When I did watch it, does it help those scenes? I would say
it totally does.
Yeah, I think it helps it.
You can tell that they're trying to like set it up though, whether it's the pole, the pothead kind of guy at the beginning, the rabbit,
the yo-yo.
But the yo-yo, there's so many kill scenes that use it effectively, but if you're not wearing the glasses, you are a little bit all right. It's just the way the camera's set up.
I think what's interesting with this one, so Steve Miner, he carries over from part 2 to part 3. But I don't know about you, it feels like a much different tone to the film, almost like a little bit more kind of tongue-in-cheek humor sprinkled throughout, a little bit goofier. It's like he got more comfortable with the third one.
And this was a couple years before House, so
that's true. Yep.
82. House is what, 85 or 86?
I believe so, yeah.
So I don't know if he just didn't want to, because 2 is pretty serious. I don't know if 3 he was just kind of like, you know what, man, let's have fun. We got this new technology. Jaws 3D's doing it. Let's do something fun with it. I know. But Richard Brooker, man, he is so menacing as Jason. I love the dream sequences, but he cannot be stopped. Part 4 Jason is perfect Jason as well. But Richard Brooker coming out of that every box, just massive, coming down the hallway, machete to the face. axe through the window. He is. I love the green shirt. Like it's just that's my look. I love that look, Jason.
I go back to so later on in the movie. So this is the one movie that I think it's more interesting. So first and foremost, they initially it looked like in pre-production or when they were initially starting this movie, it sounded like they wanted Amy Steele to come back for the third one and she declined.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, what could have this movie had been if they had gone in that direction compared to the direction that they did end up going? Because Chris, I think, is an interesting final girl. Where does she rank for you, or like, are there certain things that stand out to you about her compared to the other final girls?
I think that as far as personality, she's in the lacking department, but I think that they give her such a great story. The idea of him coming after her, and when they go to that flashback sequence, it was the first time I'd ever seen any Friday the 13th. So I thought that was so legitimately scary. Like,
Oh yeah.
Besides just any sort of, assault that he was coming after her for, he just like she couldn't get away from him. She was just dreaming. All of a sudden, there's this guy around her. So I think that it loses a few points because she's not super believable, but the story that they give her, I think, is incredible.
Well, I think the interesting aspect about it is, so she talks about, what was it, a couple years ago that she had come to the camp and something traumatic happened.
Mm-hmm.
So depending, I guess, how you look into it or you interpret it, this is the only time I feel like in the franchise that they allude to Jason like potentially doing something where it's like, if you kind of read between the lines,
I know what you're saying.
that what they're implying. Now,
He's a man with urges.
yeah. Well, I mean, he's been out in the woods for a long time, so
Long time.
no. But in all seriousness, I don't know if that's ever how I would ever interpret Jason. Jason always kind of struck me as more of like, in a way, like a mindless killing machine.
Yeah.
Not really like a predator in that sense. I don't know about you, but that's just how I choose to interpret things with him as a whole.
Yeah, I think part 3, he's unhinged compared to the other ones. There are moments in, I don't know. Yeah, this is the big one though, where he has desire.
Yeah. What about the scene where Chris is getting chased? So this scene lives rent free in my head and has been ever since I saw it. But the scene where he's up in the window,
oh, dude,
and no mask. There's something that is so creepy about that has just, here we are years later, and it's like I've watched these movies to death, and that's the one scene that there is just something so uncomfortable about it that I find myself like I'll be out working and my mind will start wandering, and I don't know why that scene bothers the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's almost like a peeping Tom look. There's a weird, the Savini effects and everything look great, but because he's wearing the mask most of the movie, and then when he takes that mask off, hanging out that window,
Very voyeuristic.
Hitchcock kind of. Yeah, it's weird. And then they go out to the little pirogue canoe or whatever, have a little, and you're like, is she dreaming this? Like, because it's frantic, man. When she's coming out, trying to get out of that barn.
Yeah,
it's intense. It just won't stop.
Dials everything basically up to 11 with what's going on. What about now another kill that takes place in it is the spear gun kill. So obviously that the goal of that was to enhance the 3D effects, but even without it, that's still like, I mean, that's pretty gnarly. That's a gnarly way to go out.
Oh yeah.
You know? I'm trying to think, what are some of the other ones that stand out to you about this one or any of the earlier entries that you can think of off the top of your head?
As far as kills?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when Shelly finally gets, it's not even a comeuppance, but like something bad's gonna happen to him because he's the funny guy trying to get laid. His kill's pretty great. The female biker chick, the stuff with the what is that, like the pitchfork? That's pretty intense.
Yes.
Even just Jason hanging there, like being choked out by the rope. Everything in that barn is just ratcheted up.
Yep. And I think it ends it on such like a mean-spirited note. You know, it's like you're seeing like what you think is going to be the end of Jason. And that's obviously not the case because he comes back for a number of sequels past that point.
Right.
But so just to recap before we move on, where are you at on this cast of characters? So I feel like that these are a little bit like, I don't know how you would describe them, but they seem like a little bit more goofy.
Yeah, they take that kind of hippie stoner. I mean, I don't mind the guy that's like being super cheesy and the shower stuff. That's a great kill. But the guy that keeps like following around Chrissy, like the White Knight or whatever, he kind of bugs me. It's hokier for sure.
Yeah. One thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about part 2 was, so you've probably seen A Bay of Blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that would, I mean, as far as I'm aware, I believe Steve Miner had said that he had not seen that prior to filming part 2, but do you feel like that was indirectly influenced by that movie in some way, shape, or form? I mean, there's a lot of scenes that it just as someone who's really over the years gotten more and more into Italian horror and giallo, that I feel like
stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to feel like that there wasn't some influence that was taken from that film.
It's definitely right there. It's so on the nose. I feel like people have talked about that, pretty openly. Steve should just, I don't know. God bless him. I think it feels ripped right out of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess if you're like, he's claiming that there's no known influence on part 2, might as well just keep riding with it.
Yeah, we're already this far into it.
Exactly. So we get through part 3, and
everyone's favorite, really.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that with this one, I think it gets, I would almost say, everything right about the franchise.
It's a perfect slasher. It's a perfect slasher.
So we got the final chapter.
Yeah.
Or so we thought.
Well, is this one of your favorites, or?
Yes. 2 and 4. And the reason why I'm so adamant about those ones, I know a lot of people lean towards 4, but because again, it comes back to like a very, very, it's a specific feel that I get out of those 2 movies, where it captures that summer atmosphere, the camp atmosphere to a certain extent, more so with, I think, part 2. Part 4 is more like they're just out in the woods, essentially.
Right.
But you get Tom Savini coming back for this one, and he had declined part 2 in favor of doing the burning effects.
And they're released pretty close, like timeline.
Yep. I mean, they were knocking these movies out pretty quickly, because we had part 3 in 82, and then try to see what part 4 was.
84.
Oh, that's right. Okay. The fact that they were able to get these out, I mean, in a short amount of time, and for them to be as effective all these years later is pretty remarkable.
I think that part 4 is ahead of its time, like kind of like part 1. It perfectly captures that 80s time period with Glover, and you've got Feldman like the music, everything just feels like lightning in a bottle for the slasher genre.
Yep.
It's
So
just, yeah.
part 4 was directed by Joseph Zito. So he also directed The Prowler, which is another excellent slasher. But I would argue that he does everything right in this movie. Like there's really not a lot of, I feel like, anything like you could really change about this movie to make it better. Like you're right. I think it is the perfect slasher.
Yeah, even where part 3 has the hokiness, it's like the audience is in on the fun for this one.
Mhm.
Like the cheesy dancing, over the top nudity, like the final girls are great. Jason's meaner, badder. It just all works. Like the flow of it is just like, bam, dude.
I would say, I don't know about you, but I feel like with this movie, he goes from being like a masked killer to like a machine.
Right.
Like it the scene towards the end of it where he just crashes through the door.
Oh, dude.
I don't know too many people that can be over here like knocking through doors like that. But I mean, it opens up. It's like you are thrown straight into the mix from part 3.
Right.
And I was watching this right before we hopped on here. I didn't get to finish the whole thing, but I mean, it takes more of like what had happened in part 3. We were talking about that being a little bit more lighthearted, campy, and then it just puts this dark twist on it. It just feels like more sinister.
It means
and
business,
yeah,
sure.
man. Where does
while still being fun?
Yeah. Now, where are you at on this one?
So, besides being a perfect slasher, yeah, it's weird. I didn't discover this one for a couple of years after I seen part 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I went backwards, and then I think I rented part 7 just on the cover. And then when I watched Final Chapter, it was the first time that he seemed like he was undead, like he could come back forever. He just had this thing. So I love it. Yeah.
I feel like it's a time capsule when it comes to like 80s pop culture for that time. And this introduces us to Tommy Jarvis, who we get him for 3 movies.
Excellent.
I mean, I don't think it, honest to God, like Corey Feldman, I know, he was that dude during this time frame, but I think he does a great job. Even
he had them all right there.
Yeah. And I think he does a phenomenal job as Tommy Jarvis, and it's an interesting angle, adds a different element to these next 3 movies. It's like, okay, we obviously know Jason's like this force of nature essentially, but you add someone that can go toe to toe with him in a certain capacity, even as a kid. I think it's a cool angle.
It is. The first 3 kind of are in their own little box as far as like the mythology they built up. The Tommy Jarvis saga, kind of like the Thorn for Halloween. It's just, there's a vibe and unpredictability to all of them that I think are just fucking great, man.
Yeah.
It feels like it should be almost like 89 or like late 80s. It looks great. Everything about it, man. It feels later 80s to me for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah. There's something about Tommy Jarvis, obviously we've all been there, right? I mean, we were all that age at one point. So the scene where he's in the bedroom, he's like peeping across at like, who is it? Like the neighbor chick. And he's just like,
how many houses were like right set up too?
Yeah.
Jason just goes on a tear, man.
I know. And the scene where he just like gets all giddy about like, we've all been there, right? Like you see
hiding under the blanket.
Yep.
Yeah.
See a hot girl and it's like, dude, it's just, it kind of captures what it's like to be at that age,
100%. I watched it Friday night. I was supposed to do more research for the later ones, but you know, part 4, it's just and that part always stands out because the audience is denied, and so Tommy's denied, and so he just hides under the blanket, giddily laughing. It's funny.
Now, what about the rest of the characters? So we obviously had Crispin Glover, Corey Feldman, Kimberly Beck. Try to see who else, and then we
girl that everybody likes.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what her name was. Trish.
Yep.
A lot of people like her. She's badass, but that's Kimberly Beck. You already said her. I'm sorry. Samantha, Sarah, Tina.
We got Ted White as Jason in this one.
Excellent.
Yes. I put him up there.
So it seems like, you know, Richard and Ted, they were more menacing just stature wise. Like they were big dudes. I don't know if they're 6'4", 6'5", but they brought those characters to life, man.
Oh, thanks, Frank. Yeah, I would say, you know, it's interesting though, because I think Kane Hodder gets a lot of praise, and I know that he was in the most Friday the 13th movies, but when I think Friday the 13th, I kind of think of Ted White a little bit more for his performance because of, like you said, how menacing it is.
Right. Sorry, my kid's saying goodnight.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
Is it a controversial take to say that Kane Hodder isn't the best Jason? Like, is that messed up?
I don't think so, and it's not to take anything away from him, but I just think that there's something different with the earlier movies that captured the essence of Jason Voorhees, the way that he's like this hulking menace, that I didn't think you really got that as much with his performance, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's you know, for some that might be blasphemy.
Hot take.
Yeah.
I think it's because I don't love all the movies the same. I just felt like the Jason characters in the first, you know, 3, 4, 6, there's just anything could happen. And Kane kind of plays it the same way. And I love that way. Just, yeah.
That's more of what I always think is you're getting to the point where like he's devolved so much or kind of rotted out as negative. I mean, he's basically, he's basically like, you know, chained up in part, right? I think it's part 7. He has is it the chain
bottom leg?
Yeah. And then as it progresses, it just kind of gets worse. And, you know, I don't know. I like part 4 has a lot going for it in that regards.
Ted White just kills it.
There's just so many like iconic scenes that come out of this too. With Crispin Glover, the corkscrew, the ridiculous dancing. You know, Corey Feldman making the masks. You know, it's just I still will never understand how a kid that age is able to like do something that it just is so impressive. I guarantee it like when I was his age, I would not be able to do those type of things.
Right. I feel like the last 15 to 20 minutes of this film, it just becomes so much darker and the chase is on and it's almost like full suspense the whole time. And you just can't get away from it, where some of the other ones, there's a lot more breathing room and there's not with part 4 once it gets going.
Yeah, there's one scene in there. I believe it's this one. So is that the scene I'm thinking of where it's with Trish and she's with, I think, Rob, and he's like holding off Jason, and you hear like as she's running away, he's screaming, he's killing me, he's killing me.
Right.
That I don't know. There is something about that when I've watched it on rewatch that I'm like, this guy literally is just getting like, we're basically hearing someone just get slaughtered.
It's
And I don't know,
brutal.
and I don't know if that's ever how it was intended, but I'm telling you, anyone who's going back and watching that, you cannot tell me that's like not scary as fuck. I know. And she's just running off, and it's like, well, thanks. Like, thanks for your service.
Yeah, dude. A lot of people love Trish. I mean, there's scenes in the hallway, there's scenes in that living room. Like, he just goes from house to house, just taking people out.
The effects, obviously, with Tom Savini coming back, a lot of those kill scenes are excellent. I'm trying. There's the shower scene, I believe, for in this one where he crushes his head in the shower. Who is it? Doug.
Yeah.
Kills him in the shower. And then obviously, like, you know, we get to the very end of this movie. The only one who can actually take him on is Tommy Jarvis. Goes full young Jason.
Right.
And somehow gets in his head.
Yeah, the creepy it's weird, man. You're like, is he wearing a mask? Like, just the makeup effects, like, it's all just, it works.
Oh yeah,
it's a unique element for sure.
Well, Tommy is able to distract him long enough for Trish to be able to hit him with the machete, wax his mask off, and then obviously we get the full reveal of Jason. And Tommy takes the machete, strikes Jason. He collapses to the floor, and the machete basically just impales him. Like, that is like Savini masterwork there, with the way his head just slides down the machete. Like that's like it dials it up to like an 11, goes the extra mile.
Image.
Yes.
It's like,
yep. Well, it's the final chapter.
Man.
Yeah, he's not supposed to survive this.
Right? I'm not coming back. No.
The
hockey mask, I think, looks great in this one.
Yes.
Perfect cover. The music's great. I mean, no, but that Savini effect we were talking about, that, God, man, I love it.
This is another one that I, especially this time of year, like, I come back, and if I had to only pick out a couple to revisit, I would argue it'd probably be 1, 2, and 4. If I'm only going for that summer feel, those are the ones I'd probably revisit more than the other ones.
Yeah, 4's got a camp vibe.
Now, part 5 takes the franchise in a much different direction. So
a few liberties.
Oh, it definitely does. So we get this in 85. It's directed by Danny Steinman and stars Melanie Kinnaman as our final girl, plays Pam. We get the appearance of Corey Feldman as Tommy Jarvis, younger. And we also get the adult version of him, John Shepard. We get Reggie the Reckless.
Reggie the Reckless.
A Friday the 13th favorite.
Dude.
He's something.
You don't forget him, man. You don't forget him.
So,
what do you like the mask in this one?
It's different.
Because there's multiple masks, right?
Yeah, it's different. I don't know if this would be my favorite, but I think what I do appreciate about it is that it helps me kind of appreciate this movie on its own. Like, it has its own distinct look to this movie. And obviously we know that it's, you know, spoilers for however many years later, that this is not Jason Voorhees in the traditional sense. It took me a little bit of time for this one to have it grow on me. I don't know about you.
So when I first watched it, I was still a kid. I was probably like 12 or 13. If I just look at this film as a slasher movie and I think that it's Jason for, 85 minutes of the runtime, I have a great time. I think it's still really effective as kind of like a psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're showing just the hands, just the shirt, knives, axe, whatever they're using, it feels like Jason. It feels hulking and intimidating. So I just kind of, I don't even think about it. I just enjoy it as kind of a change of pace,
For sure.
kind of like Halloween 3. I really still like it. I would take it over some of the later ones. I just still think it works.
This one is, I don't mind the copycat with Roy,
Right.
like him being Jason. His motivation is a little strange. Like that's the only thing about this movie that just seemed like it seemed pretty excessive for why he just became unhinged. But I can appreciate the fact that this movie took some swings on it, and I love the fact that this movie, I feel like, is getting a new audience and a different level of appreciation. Because growing up, I remember, I mean, if you enjoyed Halloween 3, if you enjoyed this movie, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, those were always considered like the odd ones out for as far as like the sequels.
Leatherface, like the Next Generation.
Yeah. But it's cool. I mean, I think as time goes on, this one ages a lot better.
It looks like a Friday the 13th movie, and that's what I need. It doesn't have as much of the camp element. I'm not a huge fan of like the psych ward and kind of going back and forth. Like you said, the motivations for some of this is silly, but it looks like a Friday the 13th movie, and the gore is great. Excessive nudity, right? That works for most young kids.
Yes. There's a lot of
holy smokes, man.
Drugs.
lot more drugs.
Yeah, this one is a lot of there's a lot about this movie that dials up some of those elements you found in a lot of the 80s slashers. I mean, they kind of went all out on this one. I felt like the slasher tropes.
85.
Yep.
Cranking them out. Man.
I can appreciate this one. It's not my favorite, but I will say it's better than some of the later sequels. I like this take. It's something different. They took a bold swing with this take on the character.
Yeah, and they knew they had to change things up with part 6, but compared to some of the later ones, yeah, I still think it really works. Chimichangas, there's a lot of like quotable things in this movie.
Yeah,
there's a lot of pop culture. I think it's getting its flowers now.
Yeah,
as it ages.
The chimichangas, man, that'll ruin you.
Is it a barn at the end again?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we bring it back. Cool.
Bring that back.
I can appreciate that there's some memorable characters that stand out. Obviously the group of kids that they focus on, I don't know if I gravitate towards that group as much, but I mean, like I said, Reggie the Reckless is awesome.
Badass. Debbie Sue.
Yep, her. I think Pam works. I don't know about you, but I don't know if I would consider her one of my favorite Final Girls.
Nah.
It's just I don't think that there's like enough there.
It's a cool end sequence, and the reveal is interesting, but now I think this has a really great intro scene. I think that the cemetery scene, the graveyard. I
Mhm.
think that is an awesome with the Jason in the ground. Like that shit's awesome, dude.
Yep.
It feels like part two. So yeah,
Where
it's got
okay, where are you at on John Shepard as Tommy Jarvis? So this is obviously an older take on the character. Does his portrayal land for you?
sometimes in the beginning of the movie it kind of does, and then I just I don't want to say I'm like quit crying about it, like, but it does kind of, yeah. I like him better in 6, like
Mhm.
that adult
Agreed.
character for sure. I think John Shepard does a pretty good job the first half hour, and then we're focusing, like we're going from psych to just here's a new, I don't know.
I
It's
almost wondered, okay, here's my thing is I almost wondered first time watching this because of just how unhinged he seemed in his portrayal. I almost wondered if he possibly could have been Jason. Now, mind you, I hadn't seen any of the other ones, but
yeah.
he seemed so like disassociated, or at least maybe that's the way that John Shepard was trying to portray him. Certainly seemed that way.
There's a weird kind of like mental health, mood disorder.
Mhm.
Is he on some sort of tranquilizers or like there's something weird drug wise that he
Yeah, for
has
sure. The
that
whole film feels
it,
like that.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's different. It's not always a home run, but they tried something, you know. I love that beginning. That intro scene still hits.
Oh yeah.
I
Now,
watched it Saturday night. It's fun ish.
where are you at on the ending? So Tommy has another hallucination of Jason, faces his fears. The hallucination of Jason disappears,
Right.
and Pam runs in to the room. Tommy appears behind the door wearing Roy's hockey mask and wielding a kitchen knife. Where, like, I just wonder what the intention was behind that. Like, what direction were they intending on taking this with any of the subsequent sequels after part 5?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like obviously the way that the lane they chose for part 6 I thought was a much better take. I mean,
Sure.
did you even notice that there was different colors on the mask when you first, I mean, I watched it when I was young, didn't pick up on any of that.
No.
Like there's blue chevrons here, this one's kind of clear, red, like
It took me some time to pick up on that.
yeah, same.
But then again, I feel like that comes with like multiple rewatches. I'm sure as many times as you've seen it, as have I.
Yeah.
There's like little things you pick up on as you watch these movies over and over again.
I think the way they're trying to set it up, it just, I don't know. It's a little lackluster for the final. I was just like, eh. I was more interested in Reggie, to be honest. Like I wanted more with him, but yeah,
It's too bad we never revisited that character.
yeah, he's great.
Well, it takes us to part 6, which I feel like for a lot of people, that's another one that is such a strong contender for being their favorite. Where does this one fall for you? So this came out in 1986, directed by Tom McLaughlin, and stars Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis, and then Jennifer Cook as Megan, and we get CJ Graham as Jason Voorhees.
For me, I think first thing, Alice Cooper, Man Behind the Mask.
Oh yeah,
makes the movie a little bit better. Huge
iconic.
Alice Cooper fan. Yeah, I mean, you could tell that they were like mid 80s. They were just pumping things up. It's funny, like it's all my friend group's favorite one. It's like Jason Live or Go Fuck Yourself. Like they're such big fans of it. And I love it, but probably not the same as most people. I always revisit it. I always have a great time. I love being in the woods in this movie. I love the RV, like the camper.
Yep.
It's iconic.
That scene with him on top of the camper.
So badass.
I know. And it's like, I don't know. There's something that scene just is so iconic looking.
I love that they keep burying the body in this movie. Like, I'm a big fan of that. I love, obviously, the canoe, the fire, like the end is amazing. I just feel like the pacing for me is a little bit all over the place, but I still love it. It's still great. You're going to take that over the later ones, and people are probably mad. This is probably their favorite one. Like, I get that.
I can't knock, like, if I agree with you, I can't knock someone if they say this is one of their favorites. I think this was where I felt like between part 5 and part 6 was where the tone of these movies started to shift a little bit to almost like
it's almost like an MTV effect. This is the Dream Warriors.
Yes.
Franchise. For me,
I would say that, and that it became a little bit more self-aware of like, hey, these are slasher movies, let's just have fun with it, kind of that goofy tone. I really like Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis. He does a lot of, he's a little bit more likable as a character. I felt like that was something that was missing in part 5 with the portrayal.
He has, it seems like he has genuine stakes compared to part 5. Like, things have changed,
and the characters are fun. That's another thing. These are fun characters. Even the opening, it's like on some Frankenstein shit with how Jason even comes back in the first place.
It's really cool. Anything with the graveyard.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome. Lightning strike.
Bonus points for that part.
Yeah.
So where do you feel like, would you say this is the movie that you feel like he became almost like superhuman?
Yeah, this one in part 7, like,
okay,
he seemed undead, but he seemed like the zombie superhuman Jason probably starts with 6. He's getting more comfortable. He can't be stopped.
I like this one. It's not, again, it's not, I wouldn't put it my this might be like a, man, I would say maybe this one's neck and neck with part 1 for my third favorite.
Okay.
I think it's just a little bit sillier in tone, and that's not a bad thing. It's just obviously after you've watched these dozens of times, you kind of know where the direction of the franchise goes. I prefer for myself, I like the more serious tone, like the more tension, the creepy atmosphere. I appreciate that a little bit more, but I certainly love this movie for sure.
This is the most accessible, probably, like with a group of friends, like just a popcorn flick. It's a quick sit. It's easy to just throw on. People love the music. They love the kills. I've said it's got the pacing issues, but it feels like it moves great for a crowd of people.
I can appreciate the fact that, like, here we are 6 movies in, and I love that they build out the lore of Jason as he's like this urban legend. And it's just going. And just nobody, like, all these characters that we run into outside of probably like the protagonists don't believe it, or they're just like unwilling to accept that this is like a legitimate issue, or that he could come back.
You would think they'd have it figured out by then, but they don't.
No, not at all.
His folklore, it just amplifies. It's fun.
I would say now this is, if I recall, this one is a little bit different in the sense that this is like one of the few that actually has kids at the camp, where where instead, like most of the movies I feel like are usually before the camp opens, you're only focusing on Yep. So I can appreciate that side of it, because I just don't think you really get that all that often in camp slashers like that.
Yeah, when they're there, is there kind of like a paintball fight or whatever they're doing.
Yep.
That almost has
little
like
goofy.
a goofy kind of platoon like. And
Yes.
then they're just the trees, and then he shows up, and that scene alone really reminds me of like Never Hike Alone. I get such a
Yep.
Never Hike Alone vibe from that, which is really cool because he's stalking, you know.
Yeah, this one, a lot of rewatchability with it. I will say that. It's obviously the last time that we get Tommy Jarvis as a character, and it's kind of a bummer because I wish we could have gotten maybe a little bit more with him, or for him to reprise that role at a later point.
Can you imagine him being the one to tell the girl with the telekinetic powers in Seven, like his backstory? Tommy would have been great.
I think that probably would have done more justice than if they had brought him back all these years later, and then he's like serving as like the legacy character that moves the story, you know, along, like kind of like how Scream and Halloween, they use those characters. But yeah, I mean, if he had appeared in part 7, it would have been interesting what you could have done with that character potentially.
Yeah, he was great.
Now, where do you feel like that this one, you're not as high on this film compared to the others, it sounds like?
It's weird. It's almost like if somebody loves something, I got to go against the grain. I don't mean to always be that way because I don't feel contrarian in the rest of my life. But like if the general public hates Nightmare 2, like that's my favorite one. It just is. So it's weird that everybody loves part 6, and it's probably like my 4th favorite. I think it's 371 or 317 depending on the year, and then I probably go 6 and 4. You go back and forth for me.
Yeah, I think I will say though that I feel like this is definitely. Give me 1 second.
You're good. Sure, I didn't miss anything in the chat. Hopefully, you guys are having fun. We're an hour and 28 minutes into this. We've got, God, like 5 or 6 more. Thanks for staying up late, everybody.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're good.
Well, we get a much different change in tone to this film with part 7. Now, are you a fan of like the direction that they took this one in? This is obviously Kane Hodder's first appearance as Jason Voorhees. Where does this one fall for you?
So, for whatever reason, on TV, you know, back in, I'm old, so God, man, probably like in the early 90s, I was almost 10, you know, something like that. So I feel like this one played on cable a lot. So I watched it a lot. And I just love the cover. And, you know, on the VHS, I feel like there was Kane Hodder attacking Homeboy there. And it just looked so menacing compared to the other ones. So I rented it all the time. And I just thought it was also really accessible, kind of like part 4 in a way, with hokey characters, weird dancing. You know, it's got the sleeping bag fucking kill, which is my favorite kill. So it has my favorite part in the entire series. I'm going to rant for a second. So when it starts and it's crackling lightning and the rain's fucking coming down, it's like, there's a legend around here.
Oh, it's so good.
And then they go through a minute and a half of montage clips from the wheelchair to coming through the window to cutting the guy in half from the first. There's Kevin Bacon. It just sets a tone, man. That intro is just the gospel of horror for me. It's one of my favorite intros next to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love it so much. That narration, incredible.
You're 7 movies in, and I feel like that's a culmination of the Jason Voorhees mythos coming to the surface. And it's like, I don't know. I can definitely agree with you on that because it's such a sets a tone. for anything going forward. Like he is like this, like I said, a force of nature essentially by this point.
Yeah, and he's buried, right? He sinks to the bottom of the lake, and so there's a new movie. How are they going to get him out? I just think maybe they were excited for having Kane, but it feels like it took some more chances again, which I thought was great. I love Tina's character, Bad News Cruz. Like there's memorable characters, I should say, with a lot of the cast.
For sure. Now, this one is directed by John Carl Buechler. And Lar Park Lincoln is Tina. Almost a Carrie versus Jason plot.
Yeah, I see that for sure.
I don't mind it, and I agree with you. I think it at least growing up, I think this movie got a lot of flack. I don't mind this angle to it. You're 7 movies in. I think at some point you have to do something a little bit different to keep this franchise innovative and fresh feeling.
And had it been 2 years since part 6? Is it the first time they did that?
Yeah, so 1988 for this one.
So 2 years later.
It's an interesting take and different style score with this one. So Fred Mullen kind of plays off of Harry Manfredini's score for this one, and that's the first time that's the case for these movies, that we get someone kind of doing their own interpretation on them.
Right. And I don't love the music. Like it's fine. It passes, but it's a little bit jarring compared to everything else.
I believe it was with this one that they had a lot of editing that was done on it out of all the films.
Like reshoots or not?
Just trimming down the excessive
cuts.
gore.
Yeah.
And it always makes me wonder what this film would have looked like in its uncut form. I believe a lot of that, as far as I'm aware, a lot of that footage is not, like, they're not able to upscale it where it looks like a seamless cut. But you can find the footage online, I believe. I remember seeing it's like kind of stitched together with some of that that they splice in there. I think this works for what it is. I mean, I certainly don't hate this film the way that I don't care for some of the other later sequels, and we'll get to that at some point. But where would you rank this? I mean, we're 7 films in, and where would you put some of these? I know 3's pretty high for you.
3's really high for me. I think, nostalgia aside, because I watched it so much, I think it's another, like part 6. It's got kind of a party vibe to it. With the characters that are there, beer, pizza, smoking. So, and then I think the kills are great. I put it high up there, and I understand that there's just kind of some silliness about it. I think that's just my nostalgia for it is way higher than some of the effects later. But at the end, man, with the fire scene and the way he keeps crashing through when we remove the mask, maggot infested Jason, I think he looks effing killer in this movie.
Yep.
Just, he is undead, man. Zombie Jason, I think, is really cool. I love the chains effects. We talked about that.
Yes.
I mean,
why do I now, did you ever play the Friday the 13th game?
I did.
Okay. I don't know why, when I think of that design, it almost feels like it goes hand in hand with the game. That was always one of my favorite designs to pair up with using Jason. But yeah, I agree. It's wonder what it could have been. Kind of surprised though that for this one, I almost wish we would have maybe gotten CJ Graham to reprise his role as Jason. They obviously went in a different direction with Kane Hodder, but it's always cool to kind of play out the what if scenarios with some of
For sure.
these actors and actresses. I don't mind this one. Like I said, I have no problem revisiting it. I think it's a cool concept. Wish we could have seen it uncut and the way that it was meant to be seen in.
If a 4K, that would be really cool if they could.
Oh, 100%.
So let me ask you this. Is there anything about Jason being in the water, stuck down there, that is kind of appealing or creepy? That works?
I can appreciate that. It just, I mean, you can't kill him, right? I mean, you basically have to like chain him up and sink him to the bottom of the lake to prevent him from killing people, right?
And even then,
yeah, and even yes, exactly, and even then, it's like you still can't kill him. That part about him where he almost takes on the supernatural side of things, almost like Frankenstein's monster, keeps coming back, and I do love that about him. And you were even saying like once he's got chains, he's got maggots, and he's like decomposing. Like we've gone from having like Hillbilly Jason, in part 2, all the way to this. It's a pretty cool evolution of a character. I can't say that there's too many slasher characters that are like this, to be honest.
And I think, Lar Park Lincoln, God rest her soul, who just passed, I think that
very sad.
She's very believable. I've always loved Carrie White, so I just have a thing for that, I guess. But how they get him out of the water is a little bit hokey when the dock is all. That's cheesy, but it just reminds me of being a little kid. So I can get by all that. I love the horrible Dr. Cruz. Like, he is awesome while being such a total prick. So.
It's a weird setup. I think we can all admit that the setup to why she's out there is a little strange, and like where Jason plays in with all that is it's interesting. But the party scene where Jason just shows up at the house and just
kills everybody.
Yes, I that part I really do appreciate.
And the campers out there that are in the tent.
Yep.
Cold, getting frisky. The sleeping bag. There's another. I think there's a machete scene with the campers. It's badass too.
A lot of the tropes. I mean, you continue to see some of the tropes that work especially for these movies. Sex, drugs, just camping. Like it works for all these movies. And then that brings us into part 8.
The Big Apple.
The Big Apple. So where is it now? Do you hold this in high regards compared to some of the other films? I mean, like we were talking about earlier, I really dig the poster art for this release.
It's weird how I've been influenced by other people on YouTube. It seems like either people are really, really for this movie, but they get really upset that there's no actual New York kills and he's in a boat for half of the damn movie. So I never even thought about that as a kid. I just, I didn't know if it was Canada or whatever. I just thought it was, it's weird how they get to New York. They do spend a lot of time, but at the time I just thought the mask was cool.
Yes.
I loved Kane mobbing around the streets. So I look back on it fondly,
So we got this one a year later, and it's directed by Rob Hedden. And this one stars Jensen Daggett as Rennie. We get Kane Hodder coming back as Jason for this one. And a lot of the filming, it looks like it took place in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously we had scenes that were shot in Times Square as well as Los Angeles. So I can understand where people come from, or viewers that feel like this doesn't offer everything that it's promising, because when the title of your movie is Jason Takes Manhattan, I would expect at face value that there's going to be more Manhattan action. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but you're setting up the expectations pretty high for that.
Takes Manhattan.
Yeah.
I mean, he has some cool. Where does it rank for you though? I really like when he's stomping around, knocking shit out of people's hands, and
I like the scene where he's on the subway.
that's great.
Yeah, there's something that gives me like they're much different movies, but Predator 2 vibes
Oh yeah,
when
I
he's
see
down
that.
there, and it's like, dude, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah,
Like you're fucked.
stuck.
If
You're
you're
stuck, man.
yeah, that's a one-way ticket.
Compared to the other ones, where does it rank for you?
Um,
Because this is the end of kind of the title Friday the 13th for a few movies.
I don't put this up as high. I still like those first 8. I come back to the most frequent,
Sure.
but this one for me, it's no shade at this movie, but it's probably out of those 8, it's probably on the lower end of things as far as how often I revisit it.
Right.
I can appreciate it for what it is. It's just feels like you're getting to the point where you're kind of running out of creative juice with the
I feel that.
series. You know, while part 7, I can definitely appreciate, like, you took some wild swings on it. Part 5, same deal. But part 8, it's like, I think you maybe could have gone in a different direction.
And it's some of that because they took him out of the cabin setting, the camp setting.
I think a little bit. Maybe if you're intending on doing a movie that's supposed to be set in Manhattan, we didn't get much.
Yeah.
I don't fault it for that. Maybe there's other reasons as to why that's actually the case. But yeah, it's probably lower on that end of the list for me. But there's definitely some iconic movie or moments in this movie. Can't talk.
There's some charm to it. So it's like 95 today in Eugene. So my garage is hot. Keep like, am I sweating in here? It's probably like it's not like 80, but
yeah.
Warm. So anyway. Yeah, I think there's charm to it. And this poster was everywhere, in the early 90s when I was growing up. It felt like Jason was in on the joke a little bit. And for better or for worse, I don't know if it totally works all the time. And then also, if you're watching Friday the 13th for, say, a marathon, do you pick your favorite ones? Do you do, sequential, like 1 through however many, and then follow the next night? Do you jump around? Because that's how I miss this one usually.
Like the first 8 I recall were like the ones I definitively remember having in the collection, whether it was on VHS, DVD, whatever the case was. I mean, it wasn't really till I had the Scream Factory box set where it's like, hey, look, like I for sure know that I have all these at one time in the collection, and that for me was like bar
It's
none.
A good moment.
Oh yeah, that's like if I had seen having a release like that when I was younger, it's like a fantasy of getting something that nice. But yeah,
even
I would
just
say
collecting all the Paramount VHS titles, they look so good on the shelf.
I realize, yes, I agree with you 100%. I thought that I had, maybe I'm like overlooking it, but I thought I had part 6 somewhere, and I don't think I do.
On VHS?
So I know I was like getting ready for this, and I just had them out just as reference. I either that or I'm not, maybe I misplaced it, but
I have a confession to make myself. I'm
okay.
missing part 4 on VHS, which is
Okay.
a big deal.
Yes.
And it's the hardest one to find out in the wild. So
part 4 I got signed by.
Oh, that's awesome. They're so collectible, man.
Oh my gosh, I can't see it from here. Hold on. Well, now at this point, now I feel like, okay, I'm just missing this. So Kimberly Beck was the one who signed that release, and yeah, especially for the Friday the 13th movies, anytime like any of these actors or actresses are at conventions, I try to take them with me. Yep.
That's awesome.
I got so far, I've got. So I know it's kind of hard to see on here. So I got.
Oh man,
Part 1. So even
Steven's the man, you guys. If you didn't know,
oh, thanks, man.
Steven
I
got
got
cool shit.
I got Adrian King, so we got Alice, I got Claudette,
Damn,
and then on the back a little Tom Savini,
Tom Savini.
which is it was one of my first conventions, and I was kind of confused why he didn't sign the front, but I'm not like, if you meet this guy in person, pretty nice guy, not one that I'm going to question his decisions on what he's deciding to do.
Probably not.
No.
He's
And
a god.
then you got part 2 here.
How awesome is that?
So
Steve Miner.
Steve Miner, and then Amy Steele that signed this one. Nothing for part 3. And then
We should have just shown that from the beginning. What
I
are we
know.
doing?
Well, listen, I gotta wait. Like if we're people are sticking along this far in.
That's awesome.
So I got Kimberly Beck signature,
And that's the real part 4 cover, because I've seen ones where there's variations.
and
That's the one we
then
want.
we got Pam's signature.
Awesome.
Yeah. Overall, I'm not kind of. I am actually bummed that I wasn't able to get for part 7.
Lars.
Yeah, because she was at that convention, and I don't know if you've been to some in the past, but they start adding up.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I got, I think, like 4 of the final girls for that one. So what are you gonna do?
Pretty good.
We
ready to move on to
a
VHS staple from 1993. Jason has made it to the 90s. We've changed the title from Friday the 13th. We are now talking the final Friday. We are talking Jason Goes Straight to Hell. Where do you stand on this beast? Talk about creative decisions being made. Let's get into it.
Okay, so this is probably, out of every one of the movies, does this not feel like the most body horror influenced?
Oh yeah,
it's
Cronenbergian.
Yes, it has grown on me.
I'm excited just to talk about it.
Yeah. So cool. I truly feel like Jason Goes to Hell is probably the last movie out of the series that feels like a true Friday the 13th film.
100%.
It takes some, like, this isn't even, I would say this is like the most bold swings you could take in a film, especially this would be film number 9 in the series.
They're showing off in this one.
Oh, this is,
look what we can do.
Yeah, this blows out of the water. Halloween Ends.
Oh yeah.
Halloween 3, Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I mean, Jaws the Revenge. Speaking of bold swings. Bold swing. Yeah, no, but like, in all seriousness, I have
Adam Marcus, man.
Yeah. Seems like a super cool guy too. Had a little bit of
I love his commentary.
Yeah.
You met him?
Haven't had a chance to meet him. Had a little bit of interaction with him on social media. Seems like a super cool guy.
That's awesome.
I think he's appreciative of the fact that this film is beginning to find a wider audience, especially after the Arrow video releases for
the documentaries got coming out.
Yes, he's pushing that as well. I like this movie. I don't think it's definitely, I can appreciate what they did with it. It's not my favorite, but I can appreciate the creative liberties that they decided to take on this one.
Yeah, if I'm watching a new Jason movie, I'm going Jason Goes to Hell.
Okay.
All day. I think that
not Jason X. Just kidding.
Not Jason X. And we'll get to the remake, but this one, like you said, feels the most like a Friday the 13th movie, man.
Yep.
And the intro scene feels like Friday the 13th. It feels big budget. It feels like almost like they had something to prove with this movie, man.
Kind of a wild start too, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. with
It's
the
basically
power and how many shots can you take to kill him, and then
yeah.
he's gonna transform and kind of shape shift, body change, almost be a demonic possession movie in some spots. Just let me, 93, I was about 10 probably.
Okay.
I think when this came out, and every single video store that I went to had this poster on it. Every single one. It was every fucking where.
The poster
And
is iconic.
the poster, and a lot of people, don't love the poster. I think it's great. You want to know what that little worm is. And then obviously the ending, like in middle school, elementary, whatever grade I was in, probably like 5th grade, it was like people were talking about the Freddy Claw, like the ending of Jason Goes to Hell. Like grown adults, I would be
Yes.
hanging out with their friends' house. They were talking about it. Like it was a big deal. I think culturally, it's like it was everywhere.
Well,
So
it's set the precursor to obviously Freddy versus Jason, and that
right.
I mean, obviously you were, I was pretty young at that point, but even for you being younger as well, I mean, did you understand even at that age like what they were setting up at that point?
No, I just
Okay.
like there was comics back then. I want to say there was like Kenner toys that were Alien versus Predator,
Oh
or
yes. Dark
McFarlane
Horse.
was Dark. Yeah, that was just starting. I think The Crow was the next year, but that was all kind of that same time period where I didn't think of how substantial it would be to have Freddy fight Jason, but
No, not at all. I mean,
people,
okay, the I'm not trying to make this like a episode focusing on the Predator, but
no, you're good,
we had a kind of similar sequence where in Predator 2 they had the Easter egg of the Xenomorph skull.
right?
I mean, that's the only time I could think of something similar where it's like, hey, you're alluding to there being some sort
Big
of like a
tease.
yeah. I mean, we didn't really have anything like that till I would say Marvel. And that's on a very, very
Right.
different sense, but um yeah,
There was
man.
crossover. There was a lot, and
I I love
it,
I love that. I love that. There's just something so cool about that. It's like
and was it because
sign me up.
you know we lost Paramount and we went to New Line, which was the home of Freddy? So was that why they were teasing? Hey, we got Jason now. We can
Yep.
do more things. Looking back, it's pretty awesome.
It's definitely a very cool pairing. Now, for anyone that was maybe a little bit older at the time and they knew what this could be leading up to, I mean, a 10-year wait is a pretty long time to get
It's a
the
long time.
payoff. I wasn't I don't think either of us were old enough to really understand like how long of a wait that is, because you didn't have social media like that to keep tabs on where things were at.
Right.
Um so okay, take some big Deadite. I I'd be very interested in if they hadn't have necessarily gone in the direction with Jason X, because that's obviously very different compared to this. But if we got maybe a sequel that was a little bit sooner, maybe if Adam Marcus had been the one, behind the wheel for the follow up, I mean, maybe they could have gone in a very different direction with this. Maybe had it been a little bit more successful.
Yeah, that's what's interesting is I don't know how popular it was everywhere else, but in Portland, Oregon, like it was a huge deal. It was everywhere, all over like the mall. Like it just seemed like it was blowing up. So yeah, if this was a huge success, you would think that they'd give it right back to them. And what could have happened?
It's yeah, I think it's just alone with that tease at the end with Freddy's glove, that to me automatically gets bonus points for how
Chef's
badass that
Chef's
is.
kiss.
Yes.
So good.
And listen, I gotta plug Arrow's 4K release. they're 3 for 3 with their most recent 4K releases, so I highly recommend any of those. But I don't know, Jason Goes to Hell looked very nice out of the bunch.
I need to. So confession time. I don't own any of them. The new releases.
Okay.
Was the Jason Goes to Hell Arrow unrated?
Yes, I believe so.
Awesome.
I will
That's probably
say,
the one I want to get the most.
I would say we can kind of go a little bit more in depth on this as we'll discuss the other films once we get there. But I felt like maybe with it being a little bit newer, the 2009 Friday the 13th, I felt like looked the best and had maybe the most to offer with what you were getting. But I'd be damned to say that Jason Goes to Hell wasn't a close second, at least for me.
And that was the first one, right? Was the 09?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it gets much more wild than going to space with Jason.
I remember right where I was when I watched that the first time. How many years had gone by?
Yeah, good or
2002?
bad memories?
Probably bad.
Come on, man. You gotta we need a champion for this movie.
I know. I mean, I was dating a lot, so probably there was definitely watching it with girls and pizza and beer. Probably I was probably 20 maybe.
Okay.
But it had memorable kills. People seem to love that version of Jason. It's getting more love. Where does it stand for you?
I mean, it's just so out there. And I don't know if it's years later. I don't even know if that's it necessarily in a good way by any means. It's just, I don't know. I can appreciate the enhanced design that we get with Jason once he comes back for whatever it's worth.
2455 in the year 2455.
I don't know, man. Like, it just feels like it was. I would say out of all the movies, it feels the least like a Friday the 13th movie. It feels like it was made for the Sci-Fi Channel. And it
just 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry, dude.
Oh, no worries.
Little ones.
No worries. I have to ask, where are you at on Uber Jason? Is this one of your favorite designs?
He's kind of like Mecha Godzilla, I don't know, man. It's fine.
Okay. I don't know why. I don't know if you're a college football guy at all.
I am.
Okay. So Oregon had the Mandrake as a short-lived mascot back in, it was like the early 2000s, and there's something about the Uber Jason design that reminds me of just a slight sense that looks like,
for people that aren't sure.
I don't love the design. Like, I guess I can appreciate like for whatever it is, but dude, it just, going back and revisiting this movie, I mean, through the Scream Factory box set, through being just a completionist with having my VHS tapes or even the Arrow releases.
I totally see that.
I don't know. There's it just feels like a step down, like in terms of quality. And this was only, I believe, 2 years before Freddy versus Jason, so it
And they
feels
would
like,
say evil gets an upgrade. Like that's what they would say.
well, there was an
But
upgrade with like the look of this movie, that's for sure. It definitely takes a step back as far as like the production value. I think is the my biggest critique on this movie.
it just feels cheaper. Like, I don't know. It doesn't. I'm fine with him going to different, locations or whatever and
Hmm.
trying to kind of milk the series, if you will. But there's a couple of unique kills, but it just doesn't falls flat for me.
Jordan was talking about the simulated campground scene, and it's just like it's so hokey. Like I get what they were going for with it. Yeah,
It's enough,
and
yeah.
and David Cronenberg shows up at the beginning of the movie. I'm like, how did you end up in this? Like, how did you get cast for this? It's like such a strange choice, because the only other film that I could think off the top of my head is his role in Nightbreed, but that's like a good role. This
That's
is
a great
not.
role. That's like
Yeah,
killer role.
yeah.
Yeah, so I've only watched this. I watched it when it came out, and then I think I bought it on DVD and watched it. And then when I bought this set a couple years ago, I watched it, and that's the last time. So if the 4K looks incredible, maybe I'd watch it again.
I feel like this, out of the 3 movies that you can get on 4K, it's worth it. I will say it's worth it for your collection. But if you're going to pick up 2 out of the 3, or at least 1 out of the 3, this would probably be like the lowest in priorities. I just don't
Yeah.
think there's that drastic of an upgrade for this movie compared to the other 2.
Well,
be
is it
honest.
even shot? It's not shot on film, right? It's a newer movie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Uber Jason.
I don't mean
Thing.
to, I don't mean to get everyone down with Jason X. It's definitely it feels like the side quest for Jason.
I wish that I loved it. I really do.
Yeah. Now, okay, Freddy versus Jason comes out 2 years later, right?
Right.
Do you consider this more of a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, or
Yes.
okay? Okay.
It isn't that weird though, like. But I can see arguments for both sides, because there's a lake and I feel like the production value and kind of the slickness of the way that it's filmed, it
Mhm.
just feels more Nightmare to me. And Freddy's like immortal and can do all these things. It's just,
I felt like that was, I mean, the fact that, I mean, I was reading a little bit into the production on it, and the fact that we went through all these different scripts, and obviously it took them a number of years to get the final end result of what we got. So this was released in 2003. Ronnie Yu was the director, and Robert Englund reprises his role as Freddy. And then we also get oh my goodness, we get as Jason Ken Kersinger as Jason.
yeah,
So the one
his one role.
appearance, it definitely feels like a 2000s horror movie. And I don't say that as like a bad thing. I would say if I'm picking between the two, I mean, I'd probably revisit this movie over Jason X, because it has a little bit more to offer. But there's also some things in this movie that don't really make a whole lot of sense. And on its own merit, I like Freddy versus Jason. It's very much of the time. And I'm just happy that we got this movie rather than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It's it's got all the tropes, it's got all the cliches in it. It's got a great soundtrack. Like, I remember that being pretty rocking. But
Yes.
again, I was, man, 21 almost. So my my priorities had shifted a little bit when this came out. I watched it in the theater, and 10 years of hype is a long time. I think that's
Oh
what's
yeah.
it's hard to do.
This was one of the first DVDs I ever owned.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's part of me that feels like Freddy doesn't really get enough to do, almost in a way, like, obviously that they have their own role in keeping the plot moving along with it. But I felt like Jason gets a majority of the kills in this.
He does.
It's I definitely would come back to this more often than Jason X, and it's pretty wild. It looks like they were trying to get this movie off the ground from 1987. So this goes back even further than when they teased it, which is pretty wild.
Do you like the look of Freddy in this one?
I know
we're talking Jason.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I mean, I've seen some like viewers online point out that they don't really care for the look of Jason or just his interpretation in this film. I guess
it's weird to think that he's more mindless in this one than the other ones. Like he's just a character to be moved along. Like, I don't know. There's just not a lot of heart and soul for something that was supposed to be so. It just kind of falls flat. I do watch it more than X, probably not as much as Jason Goes to Hell, but
that's fair. Are there certain things that you feel like work with this movie or don't necessarily?
I like the first like 20 minutes. I feel like after that it just kind of meanders. I don't know. I guess I'm not a huge like bring the worlds together kind of guy, because I love The Nightmare on Elm Street. So
yeah, same.
I don't know if Robert had things that he wasn't allowed to do certain. I don't know. I just thought he would be crazy, and he's not.
What about Monica Keena as Laurie? So you basically more of an unconventional final girl, because you're obviously, you've got two horror titans that are clashing. She's caught in between. Do you feel like she works as a character, or I guess any characters in this movie for that matter? Do you feel like that they connect for you, or not as much?
Monica Keena was nice to look at, I guess. Who else in here, Jason?
I'll agree with that 100%.
I like Chris Marquette. I loved him in a Fanboys or whatever.
Yeah.
Kia or Kelly Rowland's character, she's as a final girl, Monica, I like her, but she's not high up there compared to other people.
No, I would say less memorable.
Bottom third. But at the time, I was like, oh, she's cool.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack. We talked about that.
Oh, yes. And definitely it feels like very much of that time when this was released.
Yeah, it's kind of gory in spots.
Yeah. Oh, how could I have forgotten the scene where Jason folds up the dude in the mattress?
That's a great scene.
That is, I mean, and I forgot to make mention of so there's that is like a standout from this one. I would say in the last film through Jason X, I forgot to mention the face slushy.
The face slushy, the sink, all that.
Yeah,
that's great. I like. There's a bathroom kill in Freddy vs. Jason that I really like. That's a Freddy kill.
I will say some of like the dream sequence scenes work in that movie.
Yeah.
Obviously they have a little bit more budget. Effects were a little bit better at the time, or at least like what they were able to do with for that movie. And I felt like it worked for what it is. And then there's other scenes where I don't feel like it works, like with the what is it, the caterpillar? the centipede or whatever the guy is.
Yeah, whatever millipede thingy.
It's weird.
It's
I could have done without that.
It's like the effects compared to the 80s Freddy movies, you get some cool stuff, but it's just hard to I don't know. I mean, it's got to be in the box set, and I still like it.
Agreed.
But I don't revisit it that much. It's got like an asterisk, whatever.
Yeah. And fast forward 6 years later, and we get a remake, essentially, directed by Marcus Nispel. I definitively remember when this movie came out, and I believe it was actually on Friday the 13th.
Yeah. I watched this one in the theater again.
Yes.
Were you excited for it?
Yes. This was I know it sounds bad, but for me at least, it was my first experience being able to see this in theater.
Okay.
And being able to see this with a group of friends, not really knowing what to expect as far as like what the tone would be on this. You know, we're 6 years removed from Freddy versus Jason. I didn't know if it would have more of like the campy elements to it, or if it was going to be more serious in tone. So around that time, I know you and I were talking about it, that Platinum Dunes was a big player at that point. So they had already done the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 2003, and this was another film that they produced as well. And we definitely, I feel like, got a film that was more in tone compared to 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, more of a serious take on it. Not that the original wasn't, but
I feel you.
This is, I know we maybe can appreciate this movie on a little bit different levels. I think that there's a little bit of nostalgia that comes back for this one for me, and I feel like this one aged pretty well as time has gone on, and we have unfortunately got nothing after this. So I appreciate the last remaining entry the last remaining entry that we got in this series.
Yeah, I think probably the nostalgia of the video theater, or seeing it in theaters, was probably a big deal. I just think not knowing what to expect in the theater, I really like the first cast of characters when I first watched it. And I thought that was my opinion, like even up to today. And then, or last night when I watched it, and I'd seen it a couple of times, I started to like the second cast of characters a lot more than I thought I did. And it definitely takes that Texas Chainsaw, that seriousness, that kind of dirty grittiness.
Yes.
And there's still some fun. There's still some cheesy, campers, and, the music's great. Again, plenty of like sex and nudity. It's got all the tropes, but it does have that Texas Chainsaw reimagining. And I love how it's the first bit of it's kind of like a hodgepodge of the first couple. I think that's really cool. It's growing on me. It's aging, like you said, better than I thought.
I would say if I was going back and if I had to pick out of Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, I would probably come back to this one a little bit more frequently, just because I think it holds up a little bit better. And it's pretty, like, the story moves pretty quickly in this. Like, I mean, that's a pretty intense opening with the first group of campers, and it sets the stage obviously for the motivation for the rest of the film. But you get kind of a spiritual sleeping bag kill in a different way.
You do
in the opening, the bear trap. I feel like in this film, I mean, you're taking Derek Mears plays Jason, and I feel like he's more of like a survivalist. It's not really like the mindless killer in the woods. We're seeing him in a network of tunnels underneath, Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah, he's got a method. Do you like the whole kind of pot farm? And
I don't mind that. I mean, it's goofy, but I mean, look back at the old ones, and there's very quirky things about each one of those entries.
That's true.
So
That's
I
true.
can't really say like, wow, this is really, this is like a standout in a bad way. It just kind of works for what these movies are.
Yeah. I watched the extended cut last night. There's a couple of spots where it drags, but it's not for very long, and then it gets right back to it. I still think there's a lot of heart in this. It's a different kind of Jason. So yeah. As time goes on, I like it more.
Now, do you like the designs? You have a different take on the like the Sackhead Jason in the beginning.
I like that.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool.
Less goofy.
I mean, he runs, right? He seems bigger and just more willing to do anything to pretty much. And I love the cave idea. I think that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the final girls at the end, I think it's cast pretty well.
There's callbacks. I know that it takes a lot of influence from the first 3 films, it feels like. But I think it does it in a way where it's kind of its own spin on it, and works if you're trying to update things for more of a modern audience, or at least at the time. I thought that this film did a lot of things that hopefully you got more people interested in this franchise, and it's a shame that they never did anything with this film after that. I mean,
it was set up like
100%. It's a bummer, man. I think that.
And what else was Platinum Dunes like? The Hitcher, they had a couple more years before they just completely shit the bed.
Really. Yeah, Platinum Dunes. They were unfortunately responsible for the Fog. Yeah, they did A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Purge.
They didn't do Poltergeist, I don't think.
They did A Quiet Place, which I would say that's probably one of their
better, newer ones.
Yeah, Amityville Horror,
which I really like.
I don't know that one. Not to make this about that film. I didn't love it as much on rewatch, but Texas Chainsaw, all day.
It's those two for me that I really, really like from Platinum Dunes. And, Hills Have Eyes is great as well. Amityville Horror, I've seen both of them in the theaters, but I really enjoyed it in the theater. You lose a little like digital effects as time goes on, but I still like it. But these are also similar, the look of all of those.
The characters in this, I think work. I don't come to Friday the 13th to have anything too groundbreaking, but right. To have 2 separate casts of characters and for all of them to be at least somewhat engaging, I think it works for what it is. And the kills in this movie are pretty graphic, I feel like, compared to maybe some of the earlier entries. And the bear trap one always makes me uncomfortable.
The dude singing Sister Christian, that kills pretty great.
Yes. I think, listen, that's anytime you're finding a reason to put that song in this movie.
Oh, dude.
Or any movie, I guess, for that matter. But for this movie, it works.
It was perfect. I loved it. Yeah, my wife was, we're doing this. I was like, yeah. And she didn't mind it. It's like, yeah, it's better than I remember.
I wonder what they could have done. Like, would you have wanted to see any remaining character carry over to a sequel? Would they have survived, or would you have rather seen like a different take on it, or to draw influence from the previous entries?
What's her name? I'm trying to think of.
So Whitney, I think, was the last.
Yeah.
The girl, the sister who possibly survived.
She did a pretty good job. I thought, what was the dark hair? Was that Amanda? There's a couple of forgettable ones, but no, Whitney at the end, she's just fine. I don't know how far she would go in her new movie, but
I didn't I didn't mind Jared Padalecki as Clay. I just think it's so funny that him and his counterpart from Supernatural were both in. One was in My Bloody Valentine, and one was in this film, roughly right in that same time frame. At Jensen Ackles.
I thought Jared did a great job in this movie. Like,
Yeah,
he's one of the better characters in it. I'm not a huge Supernatural guy, but
I never got into it. It's kind of crazy that was very popular at the time, and it seemed to work that they were able to branch off and get these opportunities.
I know. I just any of those kind of Charmed or Supernatural, just True Blood. I was like,
So we went through all the movies, right? And we obviously haven't gotten anything since then. So just to kind of recap this has been a long time coming for us to finally have a chance to discuss these movies, and it's like the perfect time to get this out there. What do these movies mean to you, and where does this fall compared to other notable horror franchises that we all enjoy?
well, I think that this series means a lot to me. Like the first 8, like forget about it. It's just horror gospel, and it's weird. I'm not a big slasher guy. Like I like specific slashers quite a bit, and some of them I love, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw. Like there's ones, but the traditional slasher, I don't like a lot of the new ones. So these are just like an old friend for me. I watch them all the time, and I don't know what I do without them.
I agree. I think as time goes on, the fact that we get less and less of these type of horror movies, let alone slashers, makes me appreciate what they were able to do in such a short amount of time. I have loved these movies from VHS all the way upwards and had different experiences with every one of these, but I truly feel like Friday the 13th is a franchise. Like for myself, I hold this as one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. And it's the movies that I can come back to most, especially this time of year. Like there's no better feeling than to throw one of these movies on when you got that warm June, July breeze coming through. It's dark out, and you get like right in that mood to watch one of these films, get some pizza, just appreciate how good these are.
They get better for me, like the more times that I watch them, because I pick up on characters that I didn't think that I liked as much, and I change opinions as I get older.
Yep.
You know, it's weird. Most of my friend group are Friday the 13th over Nightmare on Elm Street. I've always been a bigger Nightmare on Elm Street fan, but it's been so long since we had any of that. So if it's not number one, it's like they're so close. They teeter sometimes, and
I know
they're just. I can watch part 1 like any day. Like, I just love it. It's so good. They're groundbreaking, and they're silly. They're accessible. They're a hell of a lot of fun, man. Especially this time of year. Like,
oh yeah,
dude.
Well, it's been awesome getting a chance to go through and revisit these from the beginning.
We've been wanting to do it for a couple months.
Oh, it's I know. I'm so thankful we were able to finally have a chance to connect. And this for me is literally in the after hours. We are pushing 1:30 in the morning right now.
Yeah,
so
I kept him up late.
No, it's all good. That's what I'm here for, especially when we're talking Friday the 13th. So
yeah.
Where can everyone find you at?
So yeah, just YouTube, Beyond the Grave Media, Instagram the same. I just started the TikTok. We'll see if I stick with it, but mostly Instagram and YouTube.
And you guys can find me just about anywhere: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it, at After Hours Video. I'm also one of the co-hosts on Beyond the Blood podcast. and that
Which
is
is a
available.
great little podcast.
Oh,
Check
thank
that
you,
out,
thank
guys.
you. That is available now on all podcast platforms, and encourage everyone to go check that out.
I think, kind of parting words, if we didn't have, what do we do, like almost 12 movies or something?
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
just had one movie to talk about, we'd still probably talk for an hour and a half.
Oh yeah,
We would just like break it down to the nuts and bolts, because Steven's very passionate when he's posting stuff like, check out this movie. He goes deep into them. So if you're not familiar with him, check out his work.
oh thanks,
Great
man.
little, yeah. It's hard to just take 15 minutes per. It's hard to
for
do that.
sure. It's I think that this is always a franchise or like a subgenre, you know, especially with slashers that can always be revisited. But you know, to be able to have the chance to talk about Friday the 13th as long as we have had to tonight has been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude. And we got Friday the 13th coming next week, so rewatch this episode. Maybe we inspired you to go check one out.
Yeah,
You see it in the comments. What's your favorite one? Which one doesn't work? And which one are you going to revisit because of one of our takes?
absolutely. All right,
guys.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.